Hello, merry meet. So today I want to discuss a topic that's been debated heavily in the Norwegian media over the last few weeks, but I've seen this debate pop up in American media as well. So I thought I would address it. Now, what I'm talking about is basically uh, journalists and so on wearing religious symbols. And issue that this popped up in is that in one of our news channels, one of the anchors was wearing a tiny little cross pendant. And of course, some people went ballistic over that. And then there's been all of this debate. And I think it's stupid to deny somebody to wear a little cross on TV. And let me explain you a few of the reasons why. Now let me take the one of the basically biggest issues I have with this concept first. One of the arguments that a lot of those that are against this make is that, oh, but we don't want the news anchors, news reporters, and so on to be biased, therefore they shouldn't wear the cross, or for that matter, a Star of David, or a pentagram, or any religious symbol. Yeah, that makes no sense because if somebody is Christian or Jewish or pagan or whatever religion, they're just as religion without having that symbol around their neck. I mean, it's not like they magically stop being whatever religion they are when they take their symbol off. And actually, I would rather like to see when someone is biased because basically, let's be realistic here, people. Everyone is biased. There's not one single human being that isn't in some way, shape, or form biased. And me as a viewer, I would much rather than see it that somebody has a potential bias. I mean, that argument is just like, I want to bury my head in the sand. I don't. I want to do this and say la 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 because as long as I can see that they're Christian, I can imagine that they don't have any religion and they're not biased whatsoever. Yeah, I would rather see it because basically everybody is biased, and when you know somebody's biased, you can actually rate what information they give you against that. So that's number one. The second is that I do not think that religion is something that you should be ashamed of, that you have to hide away, that you can never ever have a religious symbol if you have in any way a public job. Now, here's what a few atheists don't get. There's a big difference between forcing your religion on others and openly being a part of that religion. Quite a few atheists, they say that, oh no, you should never ever practice your religion in public. You should always keep it within the walls of your house, bow your head in shame. I'm completely against that. Basically, what I think is wrong is when people try to force others to take part in their religion. For example, schools that have prayer classes that you have to attend to, and so on and so forth. That is jamming your religion down somebody else's throat. That's wrong. However, somebody just quietly wearing a cross around their neck, or a pentagram, or wearing a hijab, or whatever such things, or if they say a quiet prayer over their food before eating it, or whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. And there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. Now, I do get the point in some very few professions. However, even there, I don't really see, like, it goes back to point number one. You can say that a policeman shouldn't have a cross on his ring, for example, because you can say that he's then biased. But he's biased anyway, because he still have that religion. Everybody is biased. And what you can do is that you can put up, and we already have laws that say that you can't. So if you are wrongly treated based on your religion, you can actually sue them for that. So yeah, it's completely pointless. Now, of course, hijab in the police that this sort of always ties into, and I'm going to bring out that point later. There's another matter, and my only concern when it comes to allowing policewomen to wear hijab is well, I have two concerns. One is that if there is a uniform, sort of everybody should have to follow it because otherwise it tends to be discriminated against smaller religions. Because okay, then Muslims can wear it, but not if you have, for example, let's say Viking reconstructionist who wear a linen scarf on her head when she's married, and then she can't wear that. They have and so on and so forth. But if they make that even, so everybody who has a religious reason for wearing some sort of headscarf, and as long as that headscarf is not a problem for the job, meaning, for example, for a doctor, I can see there will be a doctor or nurse. There can be a problem uh, with the cleanliness when there is a lot of scarf going on. But for anything else, I think it's okay. When it comes to the police service, I have to sort of question that if you are so afraid that men will look at you, that you have to cover up your a big part of your face and your hair and your shoulders completely. What will you do then when a male suspect fights back? Will you then be okay to still arrest that person? What if a male suspect rips your hijab off? Will you have to stop to redo the veil before you can run after him? If you say, yeah, I can still arrest the guy and I can still run after him, then it doesn't affect your job. It shouldn't be a problem. However, this brings me to point three of the cross debate. A lot of people say, oh, we should not allow people, news anchors, to wear a cross or a Star of David because then we have a way to get at the Muslims. Because then we can say that, oh, we don't wear religious symbols either, so then you can't wear your hijab. Ha ha ha. I think it's just so stupid. Who cares what people wear on their heads? Now, there's so much misconceptions when it comes to Muslims. Most Muslims are not violent. Most Muslims are not terrorists. Most Muslims just want to live in peace, take care of their families, do their work, have their family time, do their hobbies, and they're just like you and me. What's the problem? A lot of people say, oh, but if people wear the hijab, then clearly you can't talk with them. How? I can understand it to some extent when you're talking about the niqab, because in the West we are not used to people covering up their entire face. So that, and we are so much, we base our uh, understanding of what people saying not just on their words but also on their facial expressions. So we can't see a smile, can't see those sort of things. That's very confusing. If somebody has a scarf on their head, I mean, does that mean that when it's cold here in Norway, so you have to have a cap on and layers and layers of clothing? You can't approach me because you can't understand what I'm saying, or rather, let's have a little bit of an experiment here. Can you not understand what I'm saying now? Now that I have a hood on my head? Have I suddenly started speaking a different language? No, of course not. Most people say, oh, of course not, that's just a hoodie. However, what would be the difference with this and if I wrapped a scarf around my head for religious purposes? So, yeah. And there's also this idea that every Muslim woman who wears a hijab do so because she's forced to. No. Is there some people who are forced to wear the hijab? Yes. And that's wrong. Like I said, don't force your religion down somebody else's throat. But a lot of people choose to because they feel it's right for them. But I wasn't really planning on making this video into a debate around the hijab. I was more discussing generally wearing religious symbols. And I don't feel there's any problem with somebody working in media wearing a religious symbol. I mean, I would rather see them be religious so I know their bias, like I said. Now, a fourth issue is basically that some people don't seem to realize is that a lot of people wear these symbols not because of religion but for other reasons. A lot of people get, for example, as a golden cross as presents from their family members on their confirmation or when they turn 15 or on something like that. And many people then just wear this piece of jewelry out of habit. So now I am to a certain degree very happy that the world is becoming more secular because that allows for greater freedom of religion. If you don't want to have a religion, great. If you want to have a different religion than the mainstream ones, have at it. And I think this is a good development. However, I do not think that we should be so afraid of religion. You have to hide from it. That you have to say, oh no, a news anchor can never wear a cross. And like, my mother made the argument that, but what if a nurse? Let's say she has a pair of cross earrings. Because in Norway, the only jewelry nurses are allowed to wear is earrings for hygienic purposes. Because if they have rings on their fingers, for example, little germs and bacteria gets under these suckers. And yeah, and that's just one thing I have to shoot in that's completely irrelevant. When you cook, take your rings off. Because you cannot manage to wash properly under rings. A tiny, teeny little wedding band, perhaps, but even then, I recommend that you take the rings off when cooking. Or wear basically latex gloves when cooking. It's just more healthy that way. Anyway, completely irrelevant. But she said, what if they wear a pair of cross earrings and the patient she's treating isn't Christian? And I said, and so, what's the problem? Why should the nurse hide that he or she is Christian, or Hindu, or Jew, or Muslim, or whatever? I mean, even as a nurse, even if you're there to take care of people, if your patient can't accept something as simple as you're part of a religion, too bad for them. And my mother said, yeah, but often when she was a nurse, she was asked to read from some religious text or another to a sick patient, and she always did that. And she at this point was agnostic. And I said, and I mean, it's a problem if you can't do that, then you don't want to take care of people. I mean, let's say if you're a Christian and you have a Hindu patient, and this Hindu patient asks the nurse if she can read from some of his holy texts, and she said, no, no, I only want to read from the Bible, then that's a problem. That isn't acceptable. But that she wears a tiny little cross in her ear, that should be completely acceptable. It's what you do. It's basically showing that you have a religion personally. not a problem. Trying to force others to have your religion, a problem. If you're a nurse, for example, it's not acceptable for you to preach for your patients. And if you are on reading duty and the patient asks you to read from some religious text you don't agree with, you shut up and you read from the text. However, if the patient can't stand that you are wearing a religious symbol that he or she isn't agree with, then they need to shut up. Because then you're not forcing it on others. And no, them seeing the symbol is not forcing your religion on others. So basically, as long as a journalist do their job, try to basically report things as good as they can, and so on and so forth, I don't see a problem with them wearing a symbol. And if they can't do that, it's not the religious symbol they're wearing that's the problem, it's how they do their job. And they need to be fired from that for that, and not for wearing a religious symbol, which should be completely okay. Religion isn't something that you should have to hide. Don't force it down others' throats, but don't hide it either. There's nothing shameful about it. Religion can be an amazing thing. And like I said, everybody has biases, so if your bias is religious, I don't care, but I would rather know about it. So yeah, that's my opinion in that debate. Have a great day. Blessed be.